Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Martin had committed a terrible crime in the past. The story begins in the quiet, fading light of a small, forgotten town where time seemed to have slowed and the dust of old secrets clung to every corner. Two brothers, Martin and Vernon, return to their childhood home after the mysterious disappearance of their father. The house, dark and echoing with the ghosts of their youth, feels more like a tomb than a sanctuary. Their father, an owner of a now-defunct video store, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a locked office, a collection of dusty VHS tapes, and a strange, archaic board game titled Beyond the Gates. Martin, the older brother, is stoic and distant, his demeanor marked by years of quiet guilt and internal torment. Vernon is more expressive, more visibly shaken by their father's disappearance, and even more disturbed by the eerie presence of the board game. As they explore the remnants of their father's life, they uncover a dusty VHS tape labeled Play Me. Against better judgment, they insert it into the old VCR. The screen flickers to life, revealing a haunting figure, a mysterious woman, seemingly aware of them, who speaks directly through the television. The game, as it turns out, isn't just a game. With every turn they play, reality shifts. Rooms in the house begin to change. Lights flicker. Shadows move. Voices whisper. And worse, the game demands sacrifices. It demands memories. Blood. Secrets. From the beginning, Martin reacts oddly to the events unfolding. While Vernon is confused and terrified, Martin seems to recognize something in the game's cryptic symbols and the woman's chilling instructions. His refusal to explain, his tight-lipped control, all hint that he knows more than he lets on. Vernon confronts him one night, frustrated by Martin's evasiveness. But Martin brushes him off with a cold stare and a sharp reminder, some things are better left buried. But things don't stay buried for long. As the game progresses, Anita, Vernon's longtime girlfriend and someone deeply connected to the family, gets pulled into their increasingly horrifying experience. She begins to notice Vernon's sleepless nights, his erratic behavior, the way Martin watches her with quiet calculation. She's the one who finds the torn photograph in the attic, the one showing the two brothers standing with a third person, a man whose face has been violently scratched out. The board game offers more than physical danger. It becomes a psychological trial, forcing each player to confront their past. Vernon is the first to crack. During one of the game's sessions, as the house trembles and screams echo through the walls, he sees a ghostly vision of the man from the photograph. He stumbles back, pale and sweating, whispering a name, Daniel. Anita corners Vernon later that night. "Who's Daniel?" she demands. Vernon tries to deny it, but the name hangs in the air like a noose. Eventually, the truth spills out in fragments. Daniel was their childhood friend. A boy who disappeared under mysterious circumstances over 20 years ago. The town believed he ran away. His parents moved away a year after his disappearance, hearts broken, questions unanswered. But Vernon knows the truth. Or at least, part of it. He confesses to Anita that something terrible happened in the woods behind their house when they were teenagers. A fight. A mistake. Panic. Blood. He says it was Martin's fault, that Martin struck Daniel, that he was the one who insisted they hide the body. Vernon, terrified and confused, went along with it. Anita listens in horror, her hands trembling. But Vernon isn't done. There's more, and it eats away at him. He admits that it wasn't just panic. There was something more deliberate about what Martin did. Something that made Vernon wonder if it was truly an accident. Daniel had found something. A tape. Evidence of some sort of abuse or secret their father had buried. Martin didn't want it getting out. Vernon, pressured by his brother, helped cover it up. They buried Daniel in the woods and vowed never to speak of it again. Anita is horrified, not only by the crime itself, but by the weight of the lie both men have carried. She asks why they never came forward. Vernon, tears in his eyes, simply says, "Because he didn't deserve it. Because we made sure he couldn't speak." As the game deepens, reality fractures further. The house becomes a maze of shifting hallways and impossible doorways. The television woman becomes more aggressive, her voice dripping with malice, her riddles sharpening to accusations. One night, Vernon hears his name whispered from behind the basement door. When he opens it, he sees Daniel's ghost, not angry but sad. Disappointed. Martin continues to deflect, deny, retreat. But even he begins to unravel. The guilt he has buried for decades begins to rise, made manifest by the game. In one particularly brutal sequence, Martin is trapped in a room where the walls bleed with Daniel's name. He's forced to relive the moment again and again, Daniel's pleas, his cries, the final silence. Each time, Martin screams for it to stop. The game doesn't oblige. Meanwhile, Anita secretly contacts the local sheriff. She doesn't tell Vernon, not yet. She wants to give him a chance. But the law is closing in. And the game? It knows. The board pulses with life now. It bleeds when touched. The VHS woman smiles wider, her eyes black voids. She tells the players that the final truth is near. That blood will buy only time, not forgiveness. In a final confrontation, Vernon demands the whole truth from Martin. The full weight of it. And Martin breaks. He admits what Vernon has long suspected: Daniel wasn't just killed. He was silenced because he had uncovered what their father had been doing to others, possibly to Daniel himself. Martin was afraid. Of the truth. Of exposure. Of their father's wrath. But the final twist? Their father knew. He found Daniel's tape. He confronted Martin after the fact. Martin, in turn, told him it was an accident. The father agreed to help them bury it. To hide it all. And then, months later, he disappeared. Vernon realizes then, their father's vanishing act wasn't due to the game. It was the guilt. The same crushing guilt now tearing Martin apart. The game, in the end, had only one goal: to expose the truth and make the guilty suffer. The walls begin to close in. The house is collapsing into some void beyond reality. Anita, finally realizing the true weight of everything, picks up the phone and dials 911. Vernon tries to stop her, pleads with her. She shakes her head, eyes full of tears. "He was innocent," she whispers. "You both knew. And you did nothing." The sirens wail in the distance as the game prepares for its final move. The sirens faded into the distance as the house settled into a strange, tense quiet. Anita stood alone in the foyer, phone still in her hand, watching the blood-red glow of the board flicker and dim. Vernon had fled to the basement, eyes wild, mouth repeating the same words over and over. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Martin had vanished into one of the rooms upstairs, a door slamming behind him, the sound swallowed by the unnatural silence that now wrapped the house like a shroud. Anita didn't move. She was numb. She could still feel Vernon's hands trembling as he tried to stop her, his voice cracking, begging her not to call. But she had. Because someone had to. Because no one had stood up for Daniel when it mattered. And that made her complicit in a way she couldn't stand. Upstairs, Martin sat on the floor of what used to be his childhood bedroom. The walls were no longer plastered with posters and faded photos. Now, they pulsed. Literally. The wallpaper moved like skin, a heartbeat beneath every inch. He held the final VHS tape in his hand. The one that had appeared after Anita made the call. There was no label. No instructions. Only the black plastic and a strip of magnetic tape that hummed quietly, as if alive. He didn't want to watch it. He knew what was on it. He had seen it in dreams, in hallucinations, in the brief moments when the game allowed him to look away from himself. But he also knew he couldn't run anymore. Not after what he had done. Not after Vernon had finally spoken the truth. Not after Anita had looked him in the eyes and seen the full extent of his guilt. Martin stood, placed the tape in the VCR, and hit play. Downstairs, Vernon emerged from the basement. His face was pale, his hands stained with dirt. He had gone back to the place. The exact spot in the woods where they had buried Daniel. The game had opened a door in the basement, One he hadn't dared walk through until now. He didn't know if it was real. Didn't care. He had seen the roots, the bones, the torn fabric. He had seen Daniel's face in the soil. And Daniel had looked at him. Not with hate. With disappointment. He joined Anita in the living room. She didn't speak, and neither did he. But when the tape started upstairs, when the static hissed through the vents, and the ghostly voice began to speak, both of them turned their eyes toward the staircase. The walls around them began to ripple again, the lights flickering. The woman from the tapes appeared once more. Her face was no longer calm or teasing. Her expression was final. Judgmental. She didn't speak to Vernon. She didn't speak to Anita. She looked only at Martin. "You brought us here," she said. "And now you will remember everything." The screen shifted to a familiar scene. The woods. Younger versions of Martin, Vernon, and Daniel. A camcorder's timestamp glowed in the corner. They were laughing. Talking. Daniel held something in his hand, something they had never noticed before. A tape. He tried to show it to them. Tried to tell them what he'd found. Their father. The recordings. The locked cabinet in the video store office. Martin's expression on the tape darkened. The conversation grew heated. Daniel turned to leave. And then Martin grabbed a rock. Anita covered her mouth. Vernon closed his eyes. The tape played it all. Not an accident. Deliberate. After Daniel fell, motionless and bleeding into the mossy ground, Martin didn't panic. He looked around. Cold. Calculating. Vernon sobbed in the background, stumbling away. Martin dragged the body deeper into the trees. When Vernon returned, Martin said nothing about the tape in Daniel's pocket. It was gone. Martin had taken it. Back in the present, the house began to split. Literally. The floors cracked, revealing black voids beneath. The ceilings curled downward. It wasn't fire. It wasn't decay. It was something worse. It was truth, rotting its way through the lies they'd built their lives upon. Anita stood. "We have to leave," she said. Vernon shook his head. "We're not done." They climbed the stairs together, the walls groaning around them, the lights dying in pairs until only the glow of the VHS tape illuminated the hallway. Martin stood in the doorway of his room, eyes sunken, cheeks streaked with tears. He looked at them and didn't speak. The woman on the screen did. "The game is over," she said. "The truth has been spoken. But justice must be chosen." The board appeared behind Martin, hovering just above the floor, pieces scattered. The room smelled of soil and blood. One final move remained, a choice. "You may sacrifice," she said. "Or you may surrender." Vernon stepped forward. "What does that mean?" "Surrender," she said, "and the world will know. Police. Courts. Cells. Bars. Truth." Anita met her eyes. "And sacrifice?" "Something more immediate. No chains. No trial. But no escape." The floor beneath the board began to open, a gaping black pit swirling with shadows. It pulsed with the rhythm of a dying heart. Martin looked at Anita, then Vernon. His voice was broken. He was just a kid. No one answered. The silence said enough. "I did it," Martin whispered. "But you helped." "We both did." Vernon stepped toward the board. "Then we both end it." Anita grabbed his arm. "Don't. That's not your choice. Not anymore." Vernon looked at her, unsure. "Then what do I do?" "Face it," she said. "Tell the police. Face everything." The room trembled. The board cracked. The woman on the screen smiled. Martin turned and walked to the edge of the pit. The shadows reached for him, eager. "I'm not going to prison," he said. "But I won't run." Vernon lunged to stop him, but it was too late. Martin stepped into the dark. Gone. The pit closed. The board crumbled. The TV burst into sparks. And silence returned. The house was just a house again. Old. Dusty. But still. No pulsing walls. No bleeding rooms. Just a broken family. When the police arrived, Anita told them everything. About Daniel. The body. The tapes. The confession. She didn't shield Vernon. She didn't lie. And Vernon didn't fight her. He was arrested that night. Months passed. The media swarmed the town. Stories of a decades-old murder, buried evidence, haunted tapes, and two brothers who tried to bury the truth. One dead, one imprisoned. Anita visited Vernon once. Only once. He looked thinner. Tired. But calm. "I'm glad you did it," he said. "Called them." She nodded. "I had to." They sat in silence. Finally, Vernon asked, "Do you think Daniel's at peace now?" Anita looked out the window. "I think he's waiting. For everyone to be." The prison gates buzzed open behind her. And somewhere, far beyond the rust and walls and memory, a quiet forest rested. Untouched. But not forgotten. Not ever again.